My story begins not with a bang, not with a dramatic event that shook my world, but with a whisper, a subtle, almost imperceptible nudge from my own body. It started quietly, almost innocuously. Just a little stomach pain here, a fleeting discomfort that barely registered. A cramp there, a twinge I could easily dismiss. I was 22, full of youthful energy and a sense of invincibility, busy with life, dreams, and friends. My days were packed with classes, social gatherings, and the endless possibilities that lay ahead. I brushed off the pain, attributing it to any number of things, blaming stress from looming deadlines and exams, diet, perhaps too much late-night pizza and not enough vegetables, or just that time of the month, the convenient catch-all explanation for any female discomfort. I convinced myself it was nothing, just a temporary inconvenience. Serious illness was for other people, not me. It was a distant concept, something that happened to older, less vibrant individuals. One night at dinner with friends, laughing and sharing stories, a sharp pain hit. A sudden, unexpected jolt that took my breath away. I hid it, masking my discomfort with a forced smile. Smiled through it, pretending everything was fine, and told myself to be strong, to push through the pain and not let it ruin the evening. I didn't want to be the complainer, so I kept quiet, suffering in silence. I became an expert at making excuses, deflecting concern with a wave of my hand and a dismissive, "It's nothing really." Looking back, I see how easy it was to live in denial, how readily I accepted my own flimsy explanations. Our minds protect us from scary truths, building walls to keep out the things we don't want to face. My body was sending signals, subtle at first, but growing increasingly persistent. But I wasn't ready to listen, too caught up in my own life to pay attention to the whispers of my own body. I ignored the whispers, my body's red flags waving frantically for my attention. I thought I was invincible, immune to the ailments that plagued others. I told myself, "It's nothing," repeating the mantra until I almost believed it. But sometimes, the things we dismiss, the nagging little aches and pains, are the ones that matter most, the early warning signs that something is amiss. I wish I'd paid attention sooner, that I had listened to my body instead of silencing it. The pain was my body's way of asking for help, a desperate plea for attention that I chose to ignore. I kept pushing forward, refusing to slow down, convinced that I could handle anything life threw my way. I thought I was healthy, strong, and resilient. I thought I was safe, protected from the vulnerabilities that plagued others. But the truth was hiding in plain sight, masked by my own denial and wishful thinking. I didn't want to face it, the possibility that something could be seriously wrong. I didn't want to be vulnerable, to admit that I wasn't as strong and invincible as I thought I was. I didn't want to admit something could be wrong, something that could disrupt my carefully constructed life. But denial doesn't make problems disappear. It only allows them to fester and grow. It just lets them grow, silently and insidiously, until they can no longer be ignored. My story is proof, a testament to the dangers of ignoring the subtle signs our bodies send us. That ignoring the whispers can have consequences, serious and life-altering consequences. Listen to your body. Pay attention to the subtle cues, the nagging discomforts, the persistent whispers. Don't wait for a scream, for the pain to become unbearable, for the whispers to turn into a deafening roar. The first lesson, pay attention to the quiet signs, the subtle symptoms that your body is trying to communicate. Sometimes they're the most important ones, the key to preventing a small problem from becoming a life-altering crisis. At first, it was just a whisper, a nagging feeling that something wasn't quite right. But the whispers grew louder, more insistent, demanding to be heard. They started as subtle hints, easily dismissed, but soon escalated into a persistent chorus of discomfort. The occasional cramps became a constant ache, a dull throbbing that shadowed my every move. It was no longer a fleeting discomfort, but a permanent resident in my abdomen, a constant reminder that something was amiss. The pain was always there, morning and night, a relentless companion that refused to leave my side. It disrupted my sleep, haunted my waking hours, and cast a dark cloud over everything I did. There was no escape, no respite from its constant presence. Food, once a source of comfort and enjoyment, now made it worse. Each meal became a gamble, a potential trigger for increased pain and discomfort. And then I started losing weight, despite not changing my diet or exercise routine. At first, I was almost pleased, a fleeting moment of vanity amidst the growing unease. But then I looked gaunt, my face hollow, my eyes sunken. The weight loss was no longer a cause for celebration, but a stark reminder of the toll this was taking on my body. My energy vanished, leaving me feeling drained and depleted. I was exhausted all the time, struggling to get through the day, longing for the moment I could collapse into bed. Even then, sleep offered little respite as the pain often kept me tossing and turning. Then came the blood, a terrifying sign that something was seriously wrong. That was the moment fear took over, a cold wave of panic washing over me. You can explain away cramps, attribute them to stress or a bad diet, but not blood. Blood was undeniable, a clear indication that something was deeply wrong within my body. I searched for harmless explanations online, desperately clinging to the hope that it was nothing serious. But deep down, I knew. The rationalizations felt hollow, the reassurances unconvincing. My symptoms were too loud to ignore, a cacophony of pain and discomfort that drowned out any attempt at denial. I stopped going out, isolating myself from friends and social activities. I was too tired, too afraid of the pain, too consumed by worry to face the outside world. My friends noticed my absence, my withdrawal from their lives. They saw the weight loss, the dark circles under my eyes, the haunted look in my face. I brushed them off, saying, "I'm just tired," offering a weak excuse to mask the truth. I was isolating myself, building walls around me to keep the world at bay. Trapped in pain and denial, I felt like I was suffocating under the weight of my own fear. The pain woke me at night, a sharp, stabbing sensation that jolted me from sleep. I felt weak, fragile, like a porcelain doll about to shatter. I didn't recognize myself anymore, the person staring back from the mirror, a stranger ravaged by pain and fear. The denial was cracking, the carefully constructed facade beginning to crumble. I could no longer pretend this was normal, no longer ignore the desperate cries of my body. My body was screaming for help, sending out distress signals that I could no longer ignore. I was finally, terrifyingly starting to listen, acknowledging the severity of my situation. The roar was deafening, a thunderous wave of symptoms that threatened to overwhelm me completely. I realized I couldn't do this alone, that I needed support and guidance to navigate this terrifying ordeal. I needed help, professional medical assistance to understand what was happening to my body. I needed answers, a diagnosis to explain the pain and fear that had consumed my life. The time for pretending was over, the moment for facing the reality. I was ready to face the truth, no matter how frightening it might be. There are moments in life when we feel utterly lost, adrift in a sea of uncertainty and despair. It's during these times that the true strength of friendship shines through. In my darkest moment, when I felt like I was drowning in my own struggles, my best friend Sarah stepped in, a beacon of hope in the overwhelming darkness. She saw through my excuses, those carefully constructed walls I had built around myself to keep the world out. She recognized the pain behind my brave face, the forced smiles that masked the turmoil within. She refused to let me keep ignoring my health, both mental and physical. She knew I was spiraling, and she wasn't going to stand by and watch. One afternoon, she came over, unannounced but desperately needed. Concern was written all over her face, etched deeply into every line. I could see the worry in her eyes, a reflection of the fear I was trying so hard to suppress. "Charlotte," she said, her voice firm but gentle, "this has gone on long enough. You need to see a doctor, now." There was no room for argument, no space for my usual deflections. I tried to protest, to offer up the usual excuses that had become my shield, but she stopped me, her hand raised in a gesture that brooked no dissent. "I've already made an appointment," she declared, holding up her phone to show me the confirmation. "I'm going with you." Her unwavering support was a lifeline I didn't know I desperately needed. Relief, a wave of it, washed over me, momentarily calming the storm inside. But then terror washed over me, a cold, gripping fear of the unknown that lay ahead. Sarah hugged me, holding me tight as if to absorb some of my fear. "Whatever it is," she whispered, her voice full of love and reassurance, "we'll face it together." That moment changed everything. It was the turning point, the catalyst for a journey of healing and self-discovery. Sometimes we need someone to push us, to give us that extra nudge when we're stuck in our own fear. We need that support when we're too scared to act, paralyzed by the weight of our own anxieties. Sarah was my person, the one who saw me, truly saw me, even when I couldn't see myself. She refused to accept, "I'm fine," those two little words that had become my constant refrain. Her love gave me the strength to seek help, to confront the demons I had been running from for so long. Her friendship saved my life, not in a dramatic, heroic way, but in the quiet, persistent way that true friendship often does. We all need a Sarah, someone who will stand by us even when we're pushing them away, someone who won't let us fade away, who will fight for us even when we've given up on ourselves. She showed me I didn't have to do this alone, that it was okay to ask for help, that vulnerability wasn't a weakness. Her courage became my courage, a borrowed strength that allowed me to take the first shaky steps forward. That was the turning point, the moment when I decided to choose life, to choose healing, to choose myself. I finally took the first step toward answers, toward understanding, toward a future I couldn't yet imagine. I was scared, terrified even, of what I might discover. But I wasn't alone, and that made all the difference. Sometimes the hardest part is asking for help, admitting that you can't do it all on your own. But it can save your life, opening the door to healing and hope. Don't be afraid to lean on someone, to let them carry you when you're too weak to stand. It could make all the difference, transforming your life in ways you never thought possible. Walking into the doctor's office with Sarah was terrifying. I explained my symptoms: pain, exhaustion, weight loss, blood. The doctor listened, concerned, and ordered more tests. A colonoscopy was scheduled. The hospital was a blur of fear and sterile smells. Sarah held my hand until I was wheeled away. When I woke up, the doctor's face was somber. He said they'd found a large tumor in my colon. He said the word cancer. I was 22. Cancer wasn't supposed to happen to people my age. My mind went numb. I heard words like biopsies, staging, oncologists, but it all sounded distant. All I could hear was cancer. My world tilted on its axis. The future I'd planned vanished. Fear and shock took over. Why me? Why now? I looked at Sarah. Her face mirrored my horror. That day everything changed. My world stood still. I was lost in fear and uncertainty. But I knew I had to fight. I wasn't alone. After my diagnosis, I had to learn about bowel cancer. It starts in the large bowel, colon, or rectum, often from small growths called polyps. Symptoms are easy to dismiss. Changes in bowel habits, blood, weight loss, tiredness, pain. I'd ignored them for months. Bowel cancer isn't just for older people. It's rising in young adults. Many young people and even doctors don't expect it. That leads to late diagnoses and harder treatments. Knowing the symptoms and acting early can save lives. My treatment was aggressive, surgery first. They removed a large section of my colon and gave me a stoma. I woke up with a bag on my stomach, a constant reminder of my illness. Learning to manage it was overwhelming, but I adapted. I named my stoma Stella. It helped. Then came chemotherapy, 6 months of brutal side effects. Nausea, fatigue, hair loss. I felt sick and weak. Some days I couldn't get out of bed, but I kept going. My family and friends were my rock. They drove me to appointments, sat with me, made me laugh. Their support saved my spirit. The treatment was to save my body. Their love saved my hope. It was the fight of my life. I learned I was stronger than I thought. Even in the darkest times, I wasn't alone. I survived because I had help. You don't have to fight alone. Let people in. Cancer is more than a physical battle, it's emotional. At first, I was terrified and angry. I envied others living normal lives, but anger meant I was still fighting. Slowly, I found acceptance, not resignation, but strength. I focused on what I could control: my attitude, my fight, my gratitude. My scars became badges of survival. I discovered resilience I never knew I had. This journey taught me the meaning of friendship and what truly matters. I went from victim to warrior. Even after the storm, the sun can rise again. Hope is possible, even in darkness. You are stronger than you think. If you take one thing from my story, let it be this: be your own advocate. You know your body best. When something feels off, listen. Don't dismiss it or let anyone else dismiss it. Keep track of your symptoms. Be persistent with doctors. If you're not satisfied, push for answers. Early action can change everything. I wish I'd listened to my body sooner. Don't wait for the whispers to become a roar. Your health is worth fighting for. Trust your instincts. Don't take no for an answer. You are in charge of your health. Listening to your body is self-respect. It could save your life. Start the conversation. Your body is talking. My story is for everyone who's ever been told they're too young to be sick. Share this message. Talk about it with friends and family. Awareness saves lives. Be the friend who encourages others to seek help. If you're struggling, reach out. There's a community ready to help. Early detection is key. Know the symptoms, act quickly. Let's break the silence around bowel health. A simple conversation can save a life. Let's create a culture of support and advocacy. My purpose is to make sure no one